Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has banned the importation of used clothing into the East African market. Now, he says it stifles the development of local textile industries. Like most other African countries, Uganda's traditionally imported vast amounts of used clothing, which some consumers prefer because it's essentially accessible at a relatively low price. But local manufacturers complain that the dumping of second-hand apparel swamps the market and in turn undermines Uganda's ability to climb up the value chain in the cotton and textile industry. According to Oxfam, at least 70% of garments donated to charity in European markets and the US end up right here in Africa. Uganda's president says a ban will also extend to electricity meters and electric cables, saying any of those things should be bought from factories in Uganda. Let's bring in Hilary Ayesiga. He's live in Kampala tonight with more data on this story. So, Hilary, this ban will be in place roughly a week from now. But does the country have sufficient domestic apparel generation capacity to replace the used market entirely?
The country does not have that capacity yet. It has not yet developed the capacity to offset this percentage of used clothes. You know, they are around the importation of used clothes account for more than 81% into the country. So the country has not yet developed, despite having over 150,000 farmers engaged in this crop. The production still remains low. So the country has not yet set up that capacity. But what we are seeing in the market is that when you go down where in our local markets where they sell these used clothes, you will find imported new clothes, that is from Asia and Middle East, alongside used clothes. So even if the ban comes into effect in a week's time, we'll be seeing more importation of new clothes from Asia and other countries. Apart from that, you will find that even what is produced here, our local people cannot afford what is produced. The cost of production is still high. So we'll still find more newly imported products or new textile flooding the market until Uganda expands its domestic textile market. So we'll be seeing more of that. But to tell you what's happening now, it has not yet developed that capacity to offset the percentage that is coming in for used clothes.
All right. So, and this is not the first time, though, that Uganda is trying to essentially ban the import of used clothes. And I know we covered this story in 2017. The plan then was, an East African one wanted to ban those things coming into the market by 2019. There was another attempt in 2020 as well. Walk us through the history here. What happened in those two cases that caused Uganda's government to walk back and say, OK, fine, we'll lift the ban?
What happened here exactly during those years is that the US warned Uganda not to take that route because Uganda, like other East African countries, trade with the US under the Africa Growth Opportunity Act, that is AGOA. So the issue here was that the US warned Uganda not to violate that act. So that curtails Uganda from moving that direction and other East African countries to ban used clothes. And also there was an issue of an outrage from importers. Importers here say they had invested quite a lot into the importation of those, the shipment of those containers of products which were coming, the used textiles which were coming into the country. So there was that outrage. And so the country had, or the local authorities here had to rescind their decision on that ban.
All right, one last question. I'm going back to something you mentioned a little earlier with respect to cotton farmers. I find it interesting that only 10% of the cotton that is actually produced in the country is processed within Uganda. And the crop can be grown pretty much anywhere in the country. So what explains that lack of domestic processing of cotton?
The issue here is that despite in the country we have like 33 ginning or or processing plants in the country, cotton processing plants. But the challenge here is that these plants are inefficient. Even if the farmers produce quite enough of this crop, there is that capacity to take up that capacity is not enough. There is no high tech to consume all this product. So the processing is still at that low stage. And that's why you see some of them are resorting to exporting much of this cotton out, and the processing is a bit low. So coupled with a number of other issues, including low incentives to these to the people who are processing, all those are affecting the production. So there is low production. The country cannot process all that until the government develops that capacity. That's when we will see a move up.